Hello. If you've been keeping up with the news, you've probably started to hear more and more about Project 2025. Um, they are becoming very excited about the idea of winning in November. Um, so, winning means that they know there's going to be opposition. They understand that actually a lot of people would not want what Project 2025 is offering, but they plan on taking over the positions of power so that they can impose it on people anyway. So Project 2045 is sort of the opposite of that. Project 2045 suggests that, well, if we take a little bit longer, say another 20 years or so, and really talk this all out, then maybe everybody can be happy and we don't have to impose a program on the others. So it's just a very different way of approaching the future. Okay, so let's ask about Project 2025. Where did it come from? So it has been quite a long time in the making, and it sort of emanated from the New Deal, actually. So in 1932, Franklin Roosevelt um, proposed the New Deal. And this was in the middle of the Depression. So he proposed the New Deal in order to help people to get out of the Depression. So people had no money, people lost their money, banks were failing all over the place. There was a huge unemployment rate at that time. And so he proposed a whole bunch of things. So, like the FDIC, he proposed that money that you deposited into the bank would be federally protected, federally insured. This was part of the Glass-Steagall Act, actually, I think. Maybe not, but it was associated, the same ideas. So the Glass-Steagall Act specifically put in a separation between retail or commercial banking, which is, us putting our money into the bank, and investment banking, which is where banks could lose a lot of money if they made bad investments. So that was a protection. It's basically gone now. uh, so then let's see what else. So that was when the Social Security Act was passed, and the Social Security Act was where the idea was that the government would take a percentage of our income and would invest it for us on a federal basis, and then would give it back to us when we retired. So it was some level of protection for retired people. There were other things. Okay, so one of them was like a civilian conservation corps. So the idea here was that 3 million men, I'm not 100% sure if it was all men, but basically men, 3 million young men were put to work on the land, and they were maybe not paid a huge amount, but at least they had work to do, and they got paid. And also there were many protections given at that time in the New Deal, like child labor laws started. If you worked overtime, you had to be paid more, that sort of thing. So there were a lot of protections. It also allowed unionization. Okay, so what happened as a result of the New Deal, as we know, is that basically over time, America became more and more equal, and the middle class grew. Of course, by the way, the New Deal was not all that great for minorities and women. Women basically were still way behind men, and minorities, well, we all know what was going on with them. There was still such a lot of problems. but we'll that's a different issue, so we'll talk about that at some other time. Okay, so anyway, what happened was it led to a period of fairly major equality amongst, at least the men of America and families at that time. So then, now what happened, and looking back, is from about the 80s onwards, then the starting with the Reagan administration, some of these protections were turned back. And basically, over the last 30 or 40 years, then wages have not grown, and the people who own land, the people who own houses, have basically come to regard them as like an investment, because that's pretty much the only way that most people have been able to make money over these last 30, 40 years. Unless you are investing in the stock market, and we all know that the rewards to investment in the stock market have grown exponentially. So what's happened is that the rich have become much, much richer, and we now have a huge problem of inequality. So let's say that Project 2025 has some good ideas, right? I'm not sure that I think that, but we'll say that for now. I'm sure there are some good ideas in there, but there are also some ideas which would just simply increase inequality and would decimate large swaths of the population. And so the point is that if you implement programs which turn back things that came from, the New Deal time, a lot of them have been already turned back, by the way, then it's just going to make things worse if you do it in a time of great inequality. It's going to make inequality worse. So if there are good ideas, then they should be incorporated into other ideas that come from the whole of the citizenry, and they should be implemented at a time when there is at least a reasonable amount of equality, financial equality. So I would just suggest to Project 2025 people, just join Project 2045 and talk it out, and then after a period where hopefully equality will grow, then we can start to have a government that we all want. We can start having America that we all want. So I'm not going to accept that life is all about economics, by the way. This is not true. The purpose of economics is so that we can live reasonably well, and so that we can have time to do the things that are really of value to us in our lives. Okay, so at this point, we're not able to do that. Just survival takes nearly all of our time. So then we have to really think on a much better level than just economics. And one way that economists sort of maintain their control over us, by the way, is that they use language that the regular person doesn't really understand. So we need to up our game. We need to get more educated. And hopefully through these videos, Project 2045, and through all the ideas that we're going to propose, then we can really increase the amount of education in high schools and colleges and everywhere, so that we can all know what we're talking about when it comes to economic matters and maybe political matters. Okay? All right. Thank you for listening.